one's here for the clock tower, that's not going forward, okay. All right, now, December minutes, I know January 5th is not ready, so I'll make a motion to approve December 1st.
Second.
2 seconds, okay. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained?
Abstain?
Okay, next one is, since we're running, we're close. Yeah, we're 7:05. We have a site plan, a continued hearing for, and a special permit for 2250 Route 1. All right, and since this is the first time hearing it, because what happened last time, it had to be continued because Foxborough abutters weren't notified, so I'll read the public hearing notice.
Mr. Chairman, before you start, Mr. Marini's here from Marion Street.
Yeah.
Explain to him, he needs to have his attorney get the drainage easement put together, sent to the town engineer,
Yep.
and okayed by the town engineer before you'll sign the plans. Am I saying that correctly?
I don't know, Kyle?
And the landscape covenant as well.
In the landscape, in the landscape covenant. Okay, right, John? I'll call your attorney tomorrow.
So we can't do the Form F?
We don't even have.
Oh, okay.
Can I just say something?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Marini?
Mr. Marini?
You did come in the office and you did give me some things, and you asked if I was all set. And I was, but I didn't realize they weren't originals, and I didn't realize Kyle had you were all set with me, you weren't all set with engineering. So,
Thing I gave you was the original.
no, it was not.
No, and even if it was, it still needed corrections.
There were question marks on it, weren't there?
Yes, there were.
But no, it was not the original.
Can I see that?
John, do you have all the documents that, and versions that need to be worked on?
So what I did, Mr. Chairman, is Carl sent me, and I actually had some of your sort of standard document
Yep.
for a drainage easement. I fixed it up the best I could, just changed lot numbers and things like that, and then sent it to John's attorney and said, you need, not me, because I'm not an attorney, you need to review this, fix it, either send it back to me, or, no, John needs to sign it, and then bring it to here. So that never happens.
So you want as far as you could?
So the document was actually signed that came in. It wasn't an original, all right, but it still needed work, all right? I suggest before anybody signs anything, they run it through, they can run it through Kate to me or directly to me, and I'll get it to Kate, whichever way we need to, but we gotta see these things, and there's a number of things that gotta get straightened out. It's fussy work, but it's gotta happen.
What I thought everything was all set.
You're on the 1 yard line, unfortunately, John.
I haven't under all of that.
John, ask him which one.
There was some other pictures.
Mr. Chairman, are you hot tonight on that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's like Gracie and,
George and Gracie?
George and Gracie?
yeah, and I'm Gracie. You're my straight man. Okay, now, there'll be no more timeouts.
Thank you, John.
I'm sorry about that, he was gonna sit there until.
Okay. All right, with the hour being after 7:05 and 7:06, the first one to read is, we have a public hearing for January 5th, which was continued till tonight without testimony, on an application from Dr. Stephanie, is it Cube Grandam, Inc., 5 Bryant Circle, Middleborough, with respect to property located 2250 Route 1 to corner Fox Hill Drive, Walpole, and shown on Assessors Map 53, Parcel 37, Highway Business District, Overlay District 3. The applicant is seeking site plan review under Section 13 to allow construction addition to a veterinary and zoological building as shown on the plan. So that is the site. Now, trailing right behind it, when we do special permits with site plans, we have to do them 2 separate things, so that if you vote one up and one down, it doesn't affect the other one. And we run them concurrent, only because it makes sense, because to keep going back, it's easy to go back and forth. All right, so now, the hour being after 7th, I'm sorry, the other one was 7:30, wait a minute.
Oh
I'm sorry, I'm reading the last one. This is scheduled for 7:06, but I'll read the original since we didn't open it. Public hearing Thursday, January 5th at 7:31, a special permit from Grand Am Inc., case 22085 Bryant Circle, Middleborough, respect to property located at 2250 Route 1 Walpole, shown on Assessors Map 53, parcel 37, highway business. The owner is seeking special permit on the town bylaws under section 12(3)(c)(4) to allow more than 15% impervious at the site. It's as shown at 52.7, entitled Proposed Veterinary and Neurological, whatever, Pain Management Center. So, right now, we have both hearings open, and we will, with that being said, Mr. Mackey, you're gonna open it?
Yes, please.
Tell
Good
us
evening,
in.
Mr. Chairman. Phil Mackey, 1256 Washington Street, Norwood, Massachusetts. Counsel forward on behalf of the applicant. And with me is John Gloss of Gloss Engineering, engineer for the applicant. Ms. Kuby could not be, it would be Dr. Kuby, could not be with us this evening. She apologizes, but I imagine you'll see her at our next hearing. It wouldn't be normal if I didn't give you reading
Little packet.
material.
The blue book.
You'll get the blue book, I'm at 2 tonight. But so I don't confuse them, I'm gonna go down one side and back the other.
Thank you.
You're welcome. There you go.
Thank you.
Of course. There you go. So to start the presentation, Mr. Chairman, again, as is customary, unless you want otherwise, I'm planning on basically giving a fairly in-depth background because it applies to both cases, and then talking through the criteria from there. And hopefully that will avoid a lot of repetition. So basically what we have here is the existing veterinary practice at the corner of Route 1 and Fox Hill Drive. Some of you may be aware of it. Some of you may still think of it as the driving range from Funway. Or if you want other landmarks, it's next to a self-storage on one side across Fox Hill, and then it has a immediate abutter being the, I believe, currently vacant Olive and Mint / Ambrosia Function Hall. So that's where we're talking. Back in 2013, Dr. Kuby purchased the land and basically converted the former clubhouse into her office. At the time, it was considered a doctor's office, which in the highway business is allowed, with the understanding that when she expanded, it would be actually considered a full-fledged veterinary hospital, which requires a special permit from the zoning board. We went in front of the zoning board last night, and though the appeal period hasn't run, they did vote 5-0 to grant the special permit for the veterinary hospital use. So I'm in front of you saying that this is currently an allowed use, but for a potential appeal. As there was virtually no one in the audience, unless you hate puppies and kittens, I don't really see this being appealed, so hopefully we will be able to move forward. So that said, what Dr. Kuby is planning on doing is expanding her current practice, and it bears a couple of minutes of explanation of this because I didn't understand this before I started working with her. She is a specialist, no different than if any of us here needed to go get an MRI. You don't go to your primary, you get a referral to a radiologist, neurologist, and a variety of other words that were listed in the application. That's what she does. So this isn't a standard veterinary practice. Pretty much everything she deals with currently are all referrals. Ultimately, she would like to expand the hospital's scope of services to potentially include an urgent care, but again, that is not a veterinary practice. That is a relatively specialized thing. And certainly they would take patients at any time of day. But the example that was given to me is currently if your pet has an emergency at 4 in the morning, where do you go? Currently the answer is either somewhere in Dedham or Tufts if you can get in and they're open. So she would be offering that type of service. But this isn't, it's not a normal vet if you have a problem 9 to 5, you're going to go see your normal doctor. You're not going to come see her. You're not going to go into urgent care, presumably. But what I can definitely say, as far as the services that she personally offers and are currently being offered on site, and for that matter, take up, you can see in the plans, there's like a 17,000 square foot addition and then a much smaller one. The larger addition is being totally dedicated to the imaging and neurological and specialty services. And so basically you need a referral to get there. And that's how, I mean, she doesn't take walk-ins. You can't just say, hey, my dog needs an MRI. Presumably, maybe you could call and schedule an appointment. But what I'm getting at is you're not having unplanned traffic, at least at this point. And if the urgent care ever does come to fruition, you're still probably not getting a lot of traffic during peak hours, which is primarily the concern of the board. Because at those hours, you're probably going to your normal doctor, not coming there. That said, she expects at this point to get 18 patients a day. She may have multiple procedures, which, you know, at some point there are probably going to be more doctors in the hospital, potentially than patients, because one patient could have 4 or 5 different procedures. And that's now specialized as much as people doctors, so you might see 4 or 5 different doctors. But this isn't, at least in the context of commercial uses in the highway business district, this is not a big traffic generator. It's a destination for very specific purpose. And so that's kind of the general, I won't say business model, but kind of business model. Other issues, because it will come up as we start talking about wastes and fumes and what have you. For all of the hospital services that she currently offers, and will continue, the patients come in fasting because you need a empty system for the variety of imaging to happen. There is no grooming, there is no kenneling. Occasionally, a patient may have to stay overnight, but that is neither desired nor the business model, but certainly if an animal is in distress, they're not just going to kick it to the curb. But that is the exception, not the rule. So this is, it's not a site that's designed to have pets walking and, you know, things that you might think of as a pertinent to a normal veterinary practice. So for instance, when you show up with your animal, your pet, you know, you're not going to take it for a walk and play ball with it. It's hasn't eaten for a while, probably not the best of all moods. You're going to take it in, it's going to have its procedures, and then you're going to take it home. So presumably you can eat and have a better day for the rest of the afternoon or whatever it turns out to be. So I wanted to get through that because it really does picture or paint the picture of what we're trying to do. So even though we're calling it a hospital, we're not trying to put Mass General on Route 1 in Fox Hill Drive. So I think that is a little bit more than I normally go into, but I think it was important to understand what we're trying to do here. Currently, you'll see in the materials I provided, the existing operations are 8 to 5. At least currently, the plan is to keep it that way. Certainly, if there is an urgent care put in some point in the future, the hours of operation would expand, because it doesn't make sense to have that kind of facility for those hours of operation. And I would also like to just bring up that, at least as far as the hospital piece itself, everything that is being provided or expected to be provided in the hospital is already being done on site. But the big difference is currently she does her MRIs out of a trailer. So it will be both better for the animals, the environment, and everything else to actually put it into a hard stand building with a concrete floor, real roofs, real walls. And so this truly is an expansion of existing practice, but it's going from doctor office size to animal hospital size. So with that, background to go through the criteria. I will start with the site plan. And we'll go into special permit. So, as far as the site plan goes, excuse me, I apologize for a moment. The first criteria is consistency with design of the surrounding area, such as height, mass setbacks, and traditional building materials. The plans we've submitted, I think, give a fairly good representation of the building. We also submitted some architecturals, and you can see it's a one-story building with a pitched roof, multiple different roof lines. It's not going to be simply a flat building, and we would submit with CubeSmart on one side, again, the empty restaurant on the other. This absolutely fills in with what's existing. And then across the street, if you will, the street being Route 1, excuse me, not Fox Hill Drive, you have a very small strip mall there that has almost completely complementary architecture and use, that holds a feed store, a veterinary, an actual vet, a groomer. So though not attached, and we all know Route 1 is divided there, as far as the neighborhood goes, we would submit that we are absolutely inconsistent with the current design and character of the area. As far as the general site development guidelines, I'll get through those in a second when we get to that section. As far as site design, landscaping, and buffering requirements, we have submitted a landscaping plan. John can get into that with more detail. There isn't a ton being proposed here, but we do think the site for what it is attractive and will remain so. There is no buffering requirement for this particular site, given that it is flanked on all sides by other industrial property. One other piece I'd like to mention, and I'm backing up, I apologize. Dr. Kuby owns two lots. One's in Walpole, one's in Foxborough. So basically, back when it was a driving range, you stood in Walpole in the clubhouse and you drove your balls into Foxborough.
Never made it out of Walpole.
Well, I couldn't do it, but so I'm told that's the theory. And so what we are proposing, and is in front of the board, is purely on Walpole. There is a small piece of the parking lot that goes into Foxborough that is going to be removed, and is somewhat outside of the actual jurisdiction of this board. But to the board's practice, we are making the lot in Walpole its own site, totally independent. They're both buildable lots of the Foxborough lot. So your site plan, your special permit will control the entire site. It has nothing to do with Foxborough. If she wants to do something there, she'll go see Foxborough at a later date. So I think it actually makes it cleaner than what's currently here. Nothing's straddling the lot line. Nothing's going to be on the other side of the lot line. So everything we're talking about and everything that's in front of your board is 100% your jurisdiction. As far as the master plan and open space and recreational plan, we're not aware of any specific mandates for this part of town, other than that it is in the highway business, and I would submit that this is a good business, and as said, it's in character with the neighborhood, such as it is, and we think that the redevelopment or expansion of her existing business in Walpole absolutely goes along with the intent of the Highway Business District. As far as existing site features, natural and man-made, this is completely flat. In Walpole, it's basically sandy soil. There is nothing that is remaining of any sort of feature whatsoever, except perhaps the old driving range clubhouse, which is still there and will come down. But we would submit that that really doesn't meet the criteria here. As far as protection of the adjoining properties by surface water, sound, light, and noise, again, we would submit everything that's going to take place business-wise on the site will be inside of the building. You're really not going to have any impact outside whatsoever. And given the number of patients, the impact on the area as far as traffic and what have you, it's actually another one, but that's okay, will be negligible. This is Route 1 with the amount of increased traffic due to her site will not actually be noticed nor change the level of service anywhere in any meaningful particular amount. As far as light goes, we provided you with a photometric plan, and again, there is some slight spillage out onto Fox Hill Drive, but that also has a street light right there. So if anything, we're improving an existing condition, not making it worse. As far as convenience and safety of vehicular and pedestrian movement within the site, the driveway openings, we are adding a driveway opening. I'll let John discuss that a little bit more. And I know Paul Barry from the fire department has provided comments, and we're happy to address those as well. So rather than belabor that point, I'll wait to John to discuss those. As far as adequacy of parking and loading spaces, and to accommodate parking in other than the front of the building, if you look at the plan, there's actually a significant amount of parking behind the building, if you will. So I think we meet not only the letter but intent of the bylaw there. And again, the layout of the parking areas, and more importantly, the access to the building was done on purpose. It's maybe not intuitively obvious from the beginning, but a lot of it has to do with lining up a straight shot to the back of the building, which is where one of the main entrances will be for public safety equipment, rather than making them do a bunch of convoluted turns, which probably actually wouldn't work inside of the site. But again, John can discuss that more as appropriate. As far as consistent with all applicable dimensions and regulations of the zoning bylaw, we meet all of the requirements with the exception of the 15% impervious coverage cap without a special permit under the Area 3 watershed. That is one of the two matters we're here in front of you, so while I hope you vote yes on both, assuming you do, then we will be in compliance with everything. But as by right, we are over the 15%, though we're well under the 90 that's allowed by right in the highway business, but for the overlay. As far as the special permit goes, we looked through section 12 at length, and it has been determined at this point, because I know the question is going to come up, we only need the special permit for impervious coverage. We took a look at all of the materials that are being used or expected to be used, and there just aren't any there that meet the trigger, even in the aggregate, of greater than household quantities, which I think is a good thing for a hospital. And we don't anticipate that changing. Question came up in front of the zoning board last night. Should something change, that one of these procedures now require something different that would trigger the hazardous materials or hazardous waste provisions of section 12, we would have to apply for special permit. And if we weren't granted it, we couldn't do whatever that procedure was. And I know that the Board of Health requires an annual certification of hazardous materials. So There is an internal town mechanism, and I would also submit that this is probably one of the more regulated uses that you have had come before you. The waste that goes out of there, I mean, if it's regular office waste, just it goes in the trash, but everything medical, that has to go through properly licensed and credentialed procedures. The state monitors ad nauseum everything that happens that touches the animals on a regular basis. And again, backing up to a little bit of the background, 99% of the practice here, possibly more, are dogs and cats. So this is a business that is completely focused on what I think most people would consider pets in Walpole. Dr. Kuby is on the board of several zoos, and so she has experience in treating more exotic animals, but she goes to them. They don't come to her, and there is no plan on that changing. And I just bring that up because that does get asked. So, as far as the special permit goes for the impervious coverage, and most of this really ties into stormwater, so I'm just going to hit the high points, and when John gives his presentation here, he can go through this a little bit more detail. So the first requirement is that all requirements for full site plan review have to be submitted. Respectfully, we are here in front of you for a site plan review, and I believe that speaks for itself. So the second trigger is to discuss or to identify all of the applicable triggers under section 12.3C, and as I just discussed, the only one that we believe is relevant at this point is the impervious coverage. And we are looking to go to approximately 53% impervious where 90 is allowed. So again, we're well within the highway business, but we need the special permit from you folks to go from 15 to about 53%. It asks for a list of chemicals, pesticides, fuels, potentially hazardous materials in greater than household quantities, and we submit that we do not have anything in greater than household quantities, and therefore there's nothing to submit at this time. Then it talks about a description of measures to protect storage containers, et cetera, for the control of spills. As we are here simply for the impervious coverage, again, there's really nothing for us to provide for you on this. And I know, Phil, that you have in the past wanted some conditions or stipulations, and we're happy to do that because we're not trying to hide anything. There's just nothing to report at this time. And then it talks about hazardous waste being generated. Again, we submit that there are no hazardous wastes in any quantities. Whatever medical waste is generated will be disposed of accordingly. Again, you can't just throw it out. And that's, again, heavily regulated through Board of Health and state agencies. As far as storage facilities for toxic and hazardous materials, again, we are not planning on having any, therefore we don't have much to show you in that regard. Where applicable, a schematic profile for storage to contain spills. I keep repeating myself, but again, we don't anticipate storing anything, so we don't have schematics for you. As far as 15,000 gallons a day limitation, we'll stipulate right here, and certainly as part of the decision, if you so choose, that there will be no industrial waste system on site that will generate over 15,000 gallons per day, because we're certainly not doing that. For the next one, it's very similar for hazardous materials and underground discharge. We'll stipulate that we're not going to do that. And the next couple actually do apply, but I think we're well within that. 4A10, where applicable, all necessary engineering reports that demonstrate compliance with the Massachusetts stormwater policy as amended. I'm sure Carl has comments to that, and John can discuss the stormwater at length, but I would submit that the stormwater report and the plans speak for themselves as to our compliance therewith. Then there is Section 11, which discusses phasing of earth removal and its replacement. We don't really anticipate much at all. It is detailed in the grading sheet, but we're not bringing in we're not bringing in fill. We're not really changing much there at all. And again, we can discuss that further if you wish. And then the analysis by a technically qualified expert, such as a registered professional engineer, certifying the integrity of the groundwater resources. John has provided a letter, which we have attached as Exhibit A to the book. That basically says as much, so that should cover that. And John, you have the original tonight. Furthermore, there are a couple of criteria you have to look at should you decide to issue the special permit, which again, I sincerely hope you do. The first condition being that there's a proper and reasonable surface drainage of land during and after construction. Again, I think the stormwater plan submitted and shown on the plans amply shows that we're well within all of the best practices for that. It requires that previous areas compacted by heavy machinery shall be scarified to a depth of 6 inches before topsoil is replaced. We'll stipulate to that construction practice where applicable. It talks about ancillary activities to excavation and non-routine maintenance, etc., and we will stipulate that there will not be any activities to ancillary to excavation as discussed or contemplated by this section of the bylaw. Talks about fill and that it can't contain hazardous materials or hazardous wastes. Again, we will submit that there is no significant amount of fill being brought on to the site, and certainly we will stipulate that it has no hazardous, toxic, or otherwise characteristics. And then it talks about periodic inventories of toxic materials in excess of household quantities. And again, as we're willing to stipulate, or however you want to memorialize it, for the purposes of this special permit, there are no hazardous materials in greater than household quantities, and therefore an inventory is not applicable. And again, as I said before, if sometime in the future that trigger is actually met, we'll be before you again, or the zoning board, or wherever Jim sends me, to discuss that in depth. And of course, at that point, it's a new hearing, and whether it's your board or the zoning board, you can say yes or no. And so that is my presentation, and with your permission, I'll turn it over to John to go over the plans, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
I just have one quick question.
Sure.
I just want to clarify one thing. So the on page 2 of 11 in the memorandum in support of the application for the special permit.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I haven't missed something. It says the site development plans dated October 28th, revised December 16.
Yes.
Did I not get something in December 16?
They have a note.
I don't have a revised December 16. Is it?
Okay. So that was my mistake, not yours.
Okay.
I
I was
apologize.
trying to make sure I didn't
Nope,
miss something.
good catch. We were one iteration off, but now you guys will have the most up-to-date. And in fact, the zoning decision says once we're done here, we will provide them a copy of the final so that everybody is on the same sheet of music.
So you moved from the parking, you moved from 4 to 6 because of the change of the designation?
Correct. It used
And
to
that
be a
would be different
4,
from
now it's a 6.
Planned as well.
And either way we follow it, we make it. 6 is total discretion to the building commissioner. 4 has the minimum and maximum, and John actually provided those calculations on the plan just so you could see them. The maximum is 118, I think. It might be 116, so if I'm wrong, I apologize. And the minimum, I think, is 46. We're proposing 100, so we're right in the middle.
You're at 100.
Yes. John?
So, John Glosser, Gloss Engineering, 46 East Street, East Walpole. So the first order of business, Mr. Chairman, is the letter that Attorney Mackey had talked about, which essentially is my certification for the special permit. So that's the original copy, or the original of the letter.
What's that about?
Well, there's a requirement that a professional engineer or someone with similar education and experience provide a certification saying that the site after construction will, because of the type of drainage, et cetera, will protect the underground aquifer.
Okay.
So the first plan I'm going to present is simply the pre-existing conditions. So Route 1 here, Fox Hill Drive here, extra space, building is here, the Ambrosia, whatever it is, the function hall being here. This is the parking lot essentially for Ambrosia back here. This is the existing building, so it's roughly 40 by 90. It was built to be more or less, it had a few uses in there, but it was accompanying this driving range. So inside there, they actually have like a little restaurant. They have a place where you can buy golf clubs and golf balls and stuff like that. And then you walk through and buy your bucket of balls, walk out on a little, I don't know if it was concrete or bituminous here, and then these were the hitting bays. And as Attorney Mackey said, here's the town line, so you'd actually, if you could hit them far enough, that's not very far, you hit them into Walpole. And then I think that originally opened around 1992 or so and lasted until about 2013. So it was sort of successful. I think there were a few owners over the years. The original person that I actually did the site plan, the original person eventually sold it, and I think there was a couple other owners since then. The original owner had an idea to build a mini golf, which was going to be in this location here, and that's why you have this. We extended the parking lot into Foxborough. Never actually constructed the mini golf, so this sort of area kind of ended up being a little bit derelict. It's still there, obviously the pavement's still there, there's a little bit of drainage. And the light poles for this area here, they're still there, the lights are still there. I don't think that Dr. Cupid turns those lights on, but so all of that portion will be removed. But the other part of this is, you know, this is a fairly flat area here, so my point is there. And it's, so if you look on the soils map, right, so you can go on Mass GIS and look at soils maps, and they have all these funny designations for what they are. But this is actually called urban land. So urban land was changed somehow. So we usually know right away, so soils come in layers. A, topsoil. B is this soil that's underneath where all the tree roots are. And then C is the underlying soil that was up by the glacier. So if you dig out here, you don't see that B layer. That means somebody either filled over it or took it away when they took away a lot of material. We did see a B layer over here, so that seems to be natural, and this is all natural sand. And then when we dig in here, we see sand. So I wasn't there, probably wasn't around whenever something happened here. But my conclusion would be that this was higher at some point and somebody took that material out of there. So that's why we're not seeing the B layer. We dug down fairly deep, Carl was with me, and I went out there also with the Board of Health. We had some test pits down 12 feet. Sometimes we dig down and we see the A layer again. That's when it's been filled over. So we didn't see that. My conclusion is this is natural sand soil. And when you go out there, except for an area that's way up here, there's no wetlands. There really isn't any indication of any runoff. So it's very flat. More often than not, when it rains, the water doesn't even leave this site. It's just soaking into the ground. So the rest of this property, there's a water line, there's an overhead electric line, there's a small, fairly small leach bed here with a septic tank here. And these poles and the netting, they're all gone now. That's all been taken down. So those don't exist anymore. This parking lot was drained. This part of it was drained by an underground infiltration basin here. This part of it was drained by, there's an underground dry well here, and actually I think one of those catch basins is kind of a dry well catch basin. Neither of those seem to actually be working very well. They seem to be full of water, which they shouldn't be. So I'll get into that a little bit later because the town engineer had some comments on that. But that does have an overflow that goes out into the drainage system in Fox Hill Road over here, or Fox Hill Drive. The lot is 132,442 square feet, and as I said, because this was a driving range, this is just nothing but grass. It's Dr. Kuby doesn't really maintain it, but it's grass. We drive right out there to do our perk test. It's solid. There's nothing really sort of unusual about it. In the rest of this, we did a couple of test pits on this side. The rest of this is sand. And this, again, this is grass. In the front of it is grass. So the proposal, now, this plan is going to be just slightly different than what you saw. You have this area in front, and it says future addition. But since I submitted the plans, the applicant now has decided that they're going to actually build that. So, but that was included originally in all of our drain calculations, in all of our zoning calculations. We put it in there as if it was going to be built. It was just that at the time they weren't sure, and they told me to put it on there as future addition. So that's that little piece right there. Other than
Was that in the
this is-
calculation of impervious?
Yes.
For,
We included it in everything because to kind of, resolve that later if they built it, it's a mess because you'll see the drainage things are under the pavement, so we don't want to be going back at any time. So we did include that. We told them we had to do that. So it was all included in the drainage. So you can see the front of the building, or the part that abuts Boston Providence Highway, really isn't being changed too much. I mean, it's all going to be new. The pavement out there is pretty rough shape, so it all has to come out and be redone. So it's all going to be new, but it's going to be shortened up a bit. The parking spaces pretty much are going to be sort of reversed from here. They're up against the building to here, where they're facing towards Route 1. But it's shortened. They have handicap entrance to both buildings right here, or both portions of the new building right here. This is the existing building, so a 17,700 square foot addition here, and then a 1,922 square foot addition. all one story, it's not a two-story building. They're gonna, improve the walkways to concrete walkways, and, as I said, this is the existing driveway coming in, and then so this kind of came from an architect, and they have done in the past quite a number of these types of buildings that serve veterinarian uses. So they sort of laid it out for us, but they didn't show this entrance here. And when we looked at it and looked at the Walpole fire truck, like, there's no way you're gonna get that fire truck to come in here, go here, make this sharp turn and be able to get to essentially what now is gonna be the front of the building. So we recommended that they simply line up another entrance here. And it actually is an easier way to get to the front of the building here, which is, now this is gonna be the front right here. This is the front door here. So most people are gonna drive here, drive in, park here, or if there's no spaces, there's plenty of parking here. In the front of mostly in the front of the building there. So my understanding is this is going to be now more of a waiting area, and then this will be transferred into the urgent care, if that actually comes to fruition. So that's why they're still going to have an entrance in this part of the building here. So I guess that's pretty much the layout of the new building. And I'll just go over the drainage. So again, we did a number of test pits. I think we did 7 test pits with the town engineer. I did another 4 test pits with the Board of Health. We'll tell you this, Board of Health has approved the septic system plan for this now, but you might see, I'm on the Board of Health agenda, I think it's for January 25th, to go in front of them, because the local Board of Health regulation has kind of strange, I can see how it came about, requirement. So I think prior to the Title V changing in 1995. So now when you do a new septic tank, it has to be a 2-compartment septic tank. Now, it doesn't have to be, but most likely it's going to be a 2-compartment septic tank. I think the Board of Health put that in their regulation a while back, before 1995. So now I come along, Title V says for commercial building like this, you have to have 2 septic tanks. So we show 2 septic tanks. They say you got to have a 2-compartment septic tank. So I'm like, well, it's the same thing, right? If a septic tank has an outlet, goes into another septic tank, has an outlet. So, not to carry this on too long, but, so I explained that to them, and then I, talked to some of the local installers. So now instead of installing a 3,500 gallon tank and a 2,000 gallon tank, you have to install a 6,000 gallon tank. So not that easy for sort of what these local installers. They tell me, well, you probably got to be a tunnel tank. We don't want to do a tunnel tank because you don't want the sewage to be, kind of leaking out. It has a different type of a way to put together, right? Regular septic tank gets put together like a shoebox like this. Tunnel tank goes together the other way, so the joint is this. So anyway, I'm going to go in front of them. The Board of Health agents have already seen both plans. They're on board with this, but I just wanted to tell you, so you're not saying, well, John didn't tell us the truth. He's got to go in front of the Board of Health. They've already approved it with the single 2-compartment tank. I'm going to go in front of the Board of Health itself and say, look, we want to put in 2 separate septic tanks, that's all. So the function is exactly the same. So anyway, just to get that out of the way. So now here's our drainage system. So what we did is what your regulation calls for, and that is to meet the Massachusetts Stormwater Management Regulations. And to meet the Massachusetts Stormwater Management Regulations, we have to do basically a few things. One is we have to show that in the 2 and 10-year storm, that the rate of runoff is not exceeded in the proposed condition as in the existing condition. So in a situation like this where you have sandy soil, that's fairly simple to do. It's generally done by putting in infiltration beds and letting the water go back into the ground. So not only do we, in this case, not only do we match the rates for the 2 and the 10-year storm, we also match the rates for the 25-year and the 100-year storm. That is one of the requirements. The other requirement is recharge. So in this type of soil, I think it's 0.65 inches of rainfall during every rainfall has over the entire impervious area has to be put back into the ground. But because of the way we've designed this, we're actually putting, for the most part, all the water from a 100-year storm, from this part of the site anyway, back into the ground up to a 100-year storm. So all of the water from the impervious area, rooftop, and this part of the pavement, back into the grounds. The other thing that we have to meet, let me just jump ahead, or let me just go back one second. So, town engineer, so we meet at those 2 requirements, but the town engineer pointed out that, hey, you're not really, even though we're meeting the requirements, you're not sort of taking into account, or providing any additional recharge at this location here. So we've revised the plan. We dropped off a copy with the town engineer, and actually I dropped off copies of the report earlier today. That shows a new catch basin here. This will be what we call a storm scepter catch basin. So it also takes some of the suspended solids out of the flow. And then a set of galleys here, similar to this. And that will take care of 1 inch of rainfall for the paved portion right in here. So you might ask, well, John, why do you do 1 inch of rainfall? But if you look at like a graph or a chart of how rain falls, I guess let's say, in this part of Massachusetts, most of our rain comes in storms of 1 inch or less. It's very rare for us to actually have storms. I know these days people might say, you're nutty, but no, that's really true. So we're going to have a storm tonight and tomorrow. Believe me, it's going to be 1 inch or less. So what's going to happen? So we're going to capture actually about 90% of the storms, 90% of the rainfall, just by having a infiltration basin that will catch 1 inch of rainfall from this paved area. So that actually goes above and beyond what your regulation says, which the regulation for the special permit says you have to meet the DEP stormwater. So we've gone above and beyond that. We've added another 3 rows of 8 of these 2 foot high by 4 foot wide by 8 feet. So the other part of the Massachusetts Stormwater Regulation says that when you discharge your water, whether it's off-site or into the ground, you have to show that you have removed 80% of what's called total suspended solids. So in this case, total suspended solids are grit, sand, silt, pieces of soil, other pieces of particles that may get into the drain system. And you have to remove those before discharging onto the ground. So the way this is, and then there's a second part to that, and that is if you have an infiltration basin, prior to getting to the infiltration basin, you have to remove 44% of those particles. So to do that, we have deep sump catch basins, And then we have what's called a storm scepter, which is sort of a mechanism. It's like a big manhole, and the way it's sort of piped in the ground or inside the manhole, it keeps the solids inside the manhole and just lets the water flow through. They do obviously have to be maintained once a year. You have to get a back truck, and the back trucks sucks out the solids. And so to meet our 80%, actually an infiltration basin takes out 80%. So we're closer to 90 or 89 or 90% with our design here and with our design here. So we have two of these systems. One's here, you can see they're fairly large, and another one's here. This system, up to the 100-year storm, you would never see any water coming back out of a catch basin. This system you would see in a 100-year storm now. We haven't had a 100-year storm, I think, since 1956. People might argue about that, but that's the last time we've had one here. There might be 2 inches of water. There's going to be 0.16 inches, I think, or 0.13 inches of water in a little bit of a puddle right here in a 100-year storm. So I think that's palatable, right? Just to go back, Massachusetts regulations say we have to balance our rates of runoff pre and post for the 2 and the 10-year storm. That's where it ends. What they also say is you have to show that there's no downstream flooding in a 100-year storm. Well, we're not going to have any downstream flooding because all of our water is essentially held on the site, so, except for water that's coming off of grassed areas. It's not really something that's a cause for worry. So that's how we meet the regulation, and by meeting the stormwater management regulation. And then quickly, I'm just going to show you the utilities plan here. So to start with the septic system, our septic system is essentially, if you're going to consider this not in front of the building, it's behind the building. So it's going to have those 2 septic tanks, a distribution box, and then it has a huge leaching chamber behind it. And again, this is sandy soil back here. We use a pretty conservative design on the perk rate. We have mostly had 2 minute perk rates everywhere. But we kind of designed it, I think we designed it for like a 9 or 10 minute perk rate just to make sure it was large enough. The other thing, and not to, maybe you don't want to hear it here, but there really is no, in Title V, there's no sort of thing that tells us what the flow is going to be for this type of use. So we did 2 things. We did it on the doctor's office, 7 doctors, and then we looked at Tufts, what their water use is on Tufts on South Street, and then we take Tufts on South Street and we double it, and we talked to the Board of Health agent about that, and they thought that was made a lot of sense to them. So we're meeting essentially 7 doctors in a doctor's office, which I think is 250 gallons a day per doctor. And then we look at that compared to Tufts. And Tufts, I think, is a bigger place than this. It might not physically be bigger in size, but at least according to their website, they have more doctors and more stuff going on. So that's our sewage. We're going to have an on-site system. As far as water, so this plan has been changed a little bit because of what the water department asked for. So this existing water line here is going to be made larger, and that's going to be the domestic water. So that's the water every day that we're going to be using. And From here, this will be the fire line here, so there'll be a 6-inch fire line here. As far as the gas is shown as a gas here, they're going to just simply redo this gas line, which is right here. And then this overhead electric, so we're gonna come down this pole, we're gonna sweep over, so we're 10 feet away from the gas, and we're gonna come in underground here. So the only, and then this will also have the cable and telephone and whatever else. So the only line you're gonna have here now will be the water line. So this town engineer had asked me to separate the utilities. We have sort of all in one area. So, I mean, that's pretty much it. I probably bored you to death, but I can answer any questions that you might have. Thanks for tuning in. None? Okay.
No, we're all trying to wake up. All right, first item up, going back to what Phil had said, that we have an email from Pat Duchesne saying that the zoning board voted 5-0-0 on a special permit last night. Next one is from the Board of Health. Board of Health, at its January 10th meeting, voted unanimously that the Board of Health recommend adequate lighting is provided for added safety and separate recycling containers added in the dumpster enclosure to comply with the mass waistband. Next one, from Deputy Chief Paul Barry, dated December 28th. The Walpole Fire Department reviewed these plans, and they said a swept path analysis has been submitted to the Walpole Fire Department separately. They request the new egress access be opened up more to prevent from traveling in the opposite lane. A swept path analysis for the reconfiguration of the existing building parking lot needs to be shown. Why is there a proposed direction of travel opposite the normal flow when reconfiguring? The swept path analysis will need to be stamped and signed. And landscaping has to be consideration for overgrowth and access lands. And we request the applicant show the proposed location of fire department connection for the fire sprinkler. And they want a master key system that they always do, and everything's gonna comply to naturally the building codes for fire department 527 CMR 1. Okay, so that's a typical, I believe you had said something to him that you wanted to see if we changed anything before you did that in a note here. I thought it was attached, and I understand why. Matter of fact, I'll read it. It's from John on December 30th. I will forward you a revised swept path analysis and plans with registered revisions. I will do the best to make a revision after the planning board hearing so they can incorporate any changes that the board has into this. So that's why we're not a standstill, but work in progress with the fire department. And so that leaves us with Carl and his comments.
Mr. Chair, I delivered a memo to the board dated December 16th. There was some 40-yard comments, which is not unusual. We had typical comments about information that we want to see on the plans, drafting additions, quite a bit of construction detail needed to be added. Not major things, but construction detail, some missing construction details and things like that. Quite a number of comments were on that. We reviewed the drainage. Requested spot grades be added and a few things on the actual drainage design on the plan. We did review the drainage report. We had some questions. You'll note in the review that we had some questions about the actual technical modeling used in the report. And subsequently, I sat down with Mr. Glosser, and we went over the drainage report, and he helped me understand the nuances of HydroCAD modeling and why those things were in there. So that essentially, they've addressed that, and I actually was able to take a look at the plans, the revised plans, that John is either submitted or will submit, and I think I'm down to maybe 4 or 5 comments out of the 40-some-odd comments. So, and he has added, as he indicated in his narrative, He's added another third drainage system to the plans near the front of the building. So a quick review of the new plan sees almost all of the review comments going away. So needless to say that we're in pretty good shape here as far as our review goes.
Okay, you all
That's it.
set? Okay. All right, Sarah?
Okay. First question, just wanted to make sure the cards were fine with Foxborough residents?
There were no cards, but they were noticed.
Okay, okay. Okay, so,
Made sure.
okay, good. So the first thing, just kind of looking at the, you know, the whole project. It seems from your presentations that the front of the building is in the back, basically. Is that accurate?
Basically, yes.
Yeah. So I guess my comment would be that we'd want the outward facing part of the building to
To
be
not look like a
attractive.
back.
Yeah, to not
Yes,
look like the
I
back.
agree.
So there, I looked at the ZBA files and kind of looked at the architectural drawings. I mean, it looks good, but maybe there's, I don't know, you want to look at transparency or something to make it look
We'll
attractive.
take a look at it.
Okay.
It's not going to end up with glass walls. It's still going to be a sided building, but.
Yeah, okay. And then just help me understand the circulation around the site. Like, in the front portion of the building, like, what are those spots for that are actually in the back? Like those 12 spots that go along Route 1?
These spaces here?
Yeah,
Well, they have access into the building on this side here, so I'm not exactly sure. I'm gonna guess that maybe these would be,
maybe like the doctors or,
yeah, employees would have these spaces here. And the other thing that the deputy chief talked about, and there were, you can still see, there's some arrows here that were
Yeah.
kind of left over from the
yeah,
plan the architect, but we don't see any reason to have any arrows because it's all 24-foot wide pavement, so there's really no reason to sort of direct people in one direction or
okay.
another. So those were sort of a mistake, that was just sort of copied over from
Okay. So then my next kind of like bigger question is, you know, I see it as parking code 6, so kind of parking as required.
Right, so,
So,
the building inspector's here, the building commissioner, if you'd like to ask him about that. So we used parking code 4 because we saw it more as a doctor's office. But I think after Attorney Mackey was involved, and I'm not gonna argue with him, he sees it as parking code 6. So on the next set of plans that you see, it'll say parking code 6.
and then you're gonna take out like 50 spots, right?
No.
No, because, so the people who are, Dr. Cubic and the.
I heard 18 patients a day and 7 doctors. That's what I heard.
No, 7 doctors, but there's 11 staff or so.
Okay, 11
The
staff.
staff,
Okay,
yeah.
I just, I mean, you know, this is in water resource protection area. So I just encourage you to really look at, do you need all that pavement? And do you need all those spots?
So I asked the, you know, for a little bit different slant on it, I
Yeah.
asked the owners, the people who were sort of, you know, driving this, the owner, the same question, because, you know, my point is, why are you building all these parking spaces? But
Yeah,
their answer is that, you know, there's a lot of overlapping. So it's not as if somebody comes there and then their dog gets an MRI or whatever, and then they leave, and then there's somebody that pulls into that space.
yeah,
There's a lot of, just like when you go to the doctor, there's a lot of overlap.
okay,
So their experience, and they have built a number of these, the architect that I'm dealing with has built a number of these facilities. Their
Okay.
experience is that for the size of this building and for the number of doctors in there, they would like to see 100 parking spaces.
okay,
So that's what they're saying.
okay,
So, you know, they're telling me 7 doctors, staff, patients, and that, you know, this is how it works out. So that's what they're looking to do. I think that what they don't want to do is open up the building and see, you know, cars parked out on Fox Hill Drive or.
Sure, of course, yeah.
We will
I don't
look
know
at
if
it.
the building
and-
commissioner wants to say anything about this, but I don't know.
Yeah, so the reason for the number 4 on it was the original building was approved under Commissioner Mee back in 2014, and he deemed it as a veterinarian clinic, which falls under category of an office of a doctor, lawyer, attorney, which is number 4. But once they added addition on, it turned it more from a veterinary clinic into a veterinary hospital.
Yeah.
So that's why it goes to 6. By picking 6, it actually reduces the parking because at 4, you're actually allowed up to, I believe, for the size of the building, up to 108 spaces. So it's actually going down a small bit. So it goes to how many spaces they want. So talking to the owners, to what Mr. Glasser said, from their previous experience, we kind of judge on what they have done in other places, the use of it. And we also look around at the other veterinarian clinics around town, which we have on Route 1, Main Street beside Cumberland Farms. If you ever go by there during the day, that place is usually overpacked with cars. And they actually came before the board, I believe, with Mr. Attorney Mackey, because there was issues over too much parking in there and not meeting the limited site plan. Because of that, and I find that anything to do with veterinary clinics or veterinarian hospitals, the owners actually, it's going to be their animals, but they actually don't leave them there. They actually stay with them while they're doing the procedure, whether it's 5 hours, 2 minutes.
Yeah.
So they said, so there is a big major overlap.
Okay.
And again, we defer to people who do this a lot and compare it to other veterinary clinics, which they usually have an overabundance of parking.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that we're not providing 100 spaces for, you know, a needed 40.
We will confirm that.
Okay, okay, good. Okay. And okay, there's a number, landscaping 28.6. Is that landscaping within the parking? So that's showing that you're over the 10, or that's the whole
Well,
site?
So actually, the town engineer asked about that also. So
Oh.
if you read your regulation, you're allowed, and we made a plan. It's on the landscaping plan now that you'll see in the next.
Okay,
But you're actually allowed to include some of the abutting
Yeah.
landscaping into that. So
Okay.
when we do that, we're up at 28.7. So, and we
Okay.
do show, if you see the landscaping plan, you know, there's plantings all around the parking lot, even within the parking lot.
okay. Do you also have it in the islands, or no?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, okay. All right, and then back to the circulation. How is a person coming in and/or the fire department coming in gonna know which entrance to go to? Do you need signs? Do you,
I guess that's a good point. I could talk to them. I mean, we expect this to be the main entrance into the building because, as you said, this, or as I said, this is the front door of this building.
uh-huh,
This is no longer the front door, but there is access at this point, so.
Why don't you,
so you might need some,
main entrance, employee entrance, be done with it.
We can add
Something like
signs
that.
to that.
yeah,
And it still looks like it would be a challenge for a fire truck if they had to go to the front and they came in the right, you know, the rightmost entrance, because that's where they, you know,
he's
the
saying
front
that
being
he
closest
doesn't
to
want,
one.
they don't want the fire department to go in the front
But
at
how
all.
do they?
But
so
how
do
will they know?
But how, and also, maybe the fire's in that corner of the building, they want
It's
to
like
go.
any
Well,
other-
you might have to back out, that's all I can
Yeah.
tell you. You
Yeah.
can't, you know,
You don't have buildings that have 360-degree
Yeah.
fire lanes.
Yeah.
we want to get, you know, we want to get that fire truck to where it's most effective for the firemen to fight the fire. If it's most effective for him to come here, then he's going to drive in and he's going to back
Fine.
out. And
Yeah.
I want to be a wise guy, but I've done this in Norwood, and the fire chief stood up and said, you know, those things come with a reverse, and there's 7 firefighters on them, so they can help with the guy back up. So it's just unfortunate. Sometimes it's just the way it has to be laid out. And here, it's a little sensitive, you already brought it up.
But I think for the patients and things, you don't want, I mean, I would assume you just go in the first entrance and then you figure out,
We
I
agree.
gotta go that way
That's a great
We will
point.
put the signs
We
up.
didn't think of that.
Yeah.
We need to put, some sort of signage in these two entrances, that main entrance or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, so,
So it's like any other hospital, you have employee parking and you have
yeah,
main entrance.
yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. We just missed that, so we'll make sure that gets taken care of.
okay. And while we're on signs, I mean, I think we need some sign details for any signs that you're putting. There's a note on the plan that you have existing signs, like along Route 1. I don't know if there's any,
So here, there's two existing signs. right
yeah,
here.
I don't know if there are any plans to improve that. Looks like you're gonna have some signs on the building, but no details on
Nobody
that.
said that to me.
Okay.
Um,
There's signs on the building, on the architectural plans. Like, the name of the hospital or whatever.
We can
assume
ask,
so.
we can ask them about the signs. My understanding was they were just gonna leave the signs that are there that sort of define what the use is, but
Okay.
we'll make sure that.
Okay. Okay, and then, you kind of touched on this, but can you tell us about that Foxborough lot? So you're not including it in
We're
any
not.
of the calculations,
None.
so it's clean to break off and sell away, basically?
If she wanted to, yes.
Yeah,
It's a legal, compliant vacant lot.
okay,
And nothing for John's calculations require a square inch of that land.
okay. Okay. And then, John, if you could just say again about the septic tanks. So the ultimate plan is to have one tank where you showed us back there, and you think the Board of Health is good with that?
So the Board of Health regulation says that any septic tank has to be a two-compartment septic tank.
Uh-huh.
Right, so a two-compartment septic tank, effluent comes in from your house. And if you had a sort of a conventional, say a four-bedroom house, it would go into a 1,000-gallon chamber compartment. In between that and on the other, so there's a wall. And in the wall, there are what's called T's, right? So the way a septic tank works is when the effluent leaves the septic tank, it has to go through a T, right? And the T vertically goes down about 14 or 16 inches into the effluent. So grease, scum, soap floats on the top, sand, grit sinks to the bottom, and theoretically, just the cleanest sewage comes out of that septic tank and goes into the leach field. So if you put two of those, right, in a tank, in other words, it comes in, it has to go through a T, but then it goes into another compartment, and then goes out through the T to the leach field. That's called a two-compartment tank. But Title V says for commercial, you have to have two septic tanks, but it's the same thing, right? It's gonna come in this case, we need 5,500 gallons. So it's gonna come into a 3,500 gallon tank, right? It's gonna go out through a T, and then it's gonna go into another tank, and out through a T, and into the leach field. But the Board of Health agent says, well, and I don't blame her, she says, well, our regulations say you need a two-compartment tank, which means that it's one tank with two compartments versus two separate septic tanks. It's the same effect in the end. It actually does the same thing, but I'm not disagreeing with them. If you do a literal interpretation of their regulation, then I need a one compartment, I need one septic tank with two compartments. And as I said, the problem with that is, it's the difference between trying to bury this in the ground and doing the piping and trying to bury this in the ground and doing the piping. So we would, and I immediately called a couple of installers, septic installers, and said, what do you think? And they're like, it's so much less money and so much easier to do the two tanks. So
Okay, well,
that to
whatever,
them.
you have to make the Board of Health happy, so.
explain that to them, and they're like, fine, just go in front of the board, I'm sure they're gonna look.
We'll let the Board of Health decide.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're
I'm
gonna
not
work
gonna
it.
say how they vote tonight. I
okay.
know better.
Okay. Yeah, so I guess that's it. I just, take a good look at the safe circulation and see if there's any way to reduce
It's just
pavement.
tough to beat that to death. But, so what I did was, through the online permitting, I submitted the plan showing the 1-2 compartment tank. And they approved that, with the knowledge that I'm going back to do the 2 tanks.
Okay,
So that's why I said, they've approved the plan with the 1 tank.
okay. Okay, that's
All
it then.
set?
Thank you.
Phil?
Just one small thing on it'd be helpful if you just put the title on each page. Usually you have the title and the revision history, and you may have it on the new copy of it, but that would be helpful. And then, one thing on page 2, and again, a very small thing, but the orientation of the map on page 2 is different than the orientation on the subsequent pages, and I can see good reason for this because of the scale. But if it was possible just to change page 2 to match the other pages, the northern orientation is
Well, the
different.
north arrow is,
Well, the north arrow is accurate, it's just that on page 2, it's,
Not pointing to the same
Route
place on
1
paper.
is going more like a,
I see. So
Yes,
you
it's-
want the north arrows to kind of stay the same?
so that, that when you go to the next page, you know what, like I said, a very small thing, but if you could do that, that would make it more. Yeah, and a lot of things you're probably fixing in the, the new version that we don't have, so, just to, the signage, like Sarah mentioned, is good, and so, and then on the Foxborough side, so taking up the asphalt that's in Foxborough doesn't, we don't really care about it, whether you're doing it or not, that's
We really don't, but
you may do it.
we
but that's a
generally like
Fox-
to know everything we're doing, so.
Yeah, no, that's, yeah, not that we wouldn't want you to do it, but.
I don't care what you're doing in Foxborough, I don't care what you're doing with the septic. It's nothing to do with us.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, Phil, that, they're gonna be out there doing a lot of work, so why not? get
Oh,
rid
yeah,
of that
it makes
asphalt?
sense, make it clean.
To leave it there would be.
You don't want to leave it there.
And to
I
Sarah's
saw it.
point, even though it's on the other side of the line, it's still all the same watershed, so
Yeah,
pull out some pavement while we can.
yeah.
Yeah, and then on sheet 5, the utilities, just reaffirming the Board of Health recycling container, and whether you're changing the existing trash enclosure, everything. And all those things have to be in enclosures, as you know. And, yeah, and then the landscaping, and it sounds like you're meeting over the 10%, so. And then, yeah, so I just had a question on the lighting on sheet 11. So I don't know what the health department was, do you know what their problem is, it's not light enough? Or,
I don't think they had a problem per se. If you read a lot of their questions, or not questions, their comments, it's a fairly standard one. They just want to make sure they're as adequate.
oh, okay, yeah, so then you have the
They don't review the illumination plan. They always say they recommend adequate lighting and for safety. Or if it's a subdivision, they say so you can walk at night or something, so.
okay. And certainly we don't want too much lighting either. That's-
Right. I don't think that was meant to be, and we're in front of them in a couple of weeks, so we'll confirm that, but.
So we do look at the lighting plan casually, there's not a lot of
And you had, in your
parameters
notes, you
to
said
it.
it was good.
So, yeah, we didn't really say, the only thing I will say, John, when the light pole detail went on the new set, it's a 25-foot pole. I don't know if your lighting calcs were based on that, but zoning wants a 15-foot pole.
I'll look into that, I think that's
Yeah.
what they.
But if they did the lighting plan with a 25-footer, it would change that plan. We might need a couple more lights with the 15-footers.
That's in the zoning book. They don't have heights of poles. Who wants 15?
It's there, I think.
We do somewhere, Mr. Chairman. That's a vague answer, and I don't know chapter and verse.
I don't see many 15s when you're at the mall or anything. 15 don't really cut it in a lot of parking lots.
let me review the zoning book.
And then I just want to come back to the
We will
traffic
comply
flow.
with whatever it is. I'm not going for a light pole variance.
Be careful, I've got 2 or 3 towns up there, too.
Fair enough.
Cheaper 15.
Probably.
And my last thing, I just want to come back to the traffic flow on sheet 3, the site plan. You know, it just looks like a lot of edges, kind of. I mean, you may want to look at it, but for example, on the parking spaces that are at that front entrance, the one that's closest to Route 1, you know, there's some spaces there that I guess they have room to back up to get out. There are the handicap spots there. You know, the one, if you,
No, I didn't break it,
right in there, yes, yeah.
but they all meet the zoning for.
Yeah, no, and I realize that, but, yeah. Yeah, so anyways, it just looked a little awkward to me a little bit for the flow, you know, just, but as long as you're addressing at least the entrance and the signage, I think that's very, very
Yeah, I'll
important.
talk to them too.
Yeah.
My guess is that they're trying to reserve this for employees and leave the main part of the, I'll ask them.
Yeah, it just looks like a lot of, you know, stops and not a lot of kind of more curves or, but definitely you know, as long as people know to go, the entrance is the second driveway would help. And it sounds like you're gonna make that wider for the fire
Yes.
department. And, yeah.
Yeah,
So-
we widened it up to show Deputy Chief Barry that the fire truck can come here and stay on the right side of the road for Foxborough without having to cross into the oncoming traffic. Pull in, get to the front of the building, come around and leave. I don't know if we have them leaving in either scenario. You know, so that's generally what we show them, and I'll make sure that whatever he wants that's what we'll do.
As long as he's happy,
Yeah.
we're happy. Then,
Yeah.
yep. So I think that's all I have for now. You know, I think we're gonna see your next iteration of
We'll
the
be back.
plan is gonna be the big thing.
Ms. Zabady?
So am I correct in saying right now, neurology and pain management are the only 2 services? All the other ones you listed, the cardiology, orthopedics, all that's new?
No, those are all pretty much
They're
there.
already there,
Yes.
operational now?
She herself doesn't do each one of them,
Yeah.
but she's got several other doctors. So, and we'll clarify this because it might help Sarah's question as well, because I'm not entirely clear. Each doctor has their own specialty. So like she does 2 things, somebody else does 2 things, somebody else does 2 things. So you may have 1 dog or cat and 5 doctors, all at the same time. And then you start backing up, and I think this is where you get to, it doesn't make sense when you think about it, but in practicality, you end up with a lot more people.
Right.
So currently, other than the urgent care, everything we discussed is being offered on site to one degree or another. It may not be to the level they want or with the equipment they want, but nothing as far as the pain, imaging, specialty care, to the best of my knowledge,
Okay.
is new.
And as far as the emergency vet portion that you had pulled back in to do now instead of later, is that going to be operational right away, or is it just that she wants the structure there so she doesn't have to come back?
We're not sure.
Okay.
At one point, when we filed, we had somebody who was coming in. I don't tonight.
Okay,
So it could happen when we construct, it could happen a year from now, it could happen never. But for the physical structure, which is really what's in front of the board, we wanted to make sure it's permitted so that I don't come back to you saying, well, I now need to add in more drainage because we don't have it.
okay.
And so we're permitting the whole thing. I am anticipating the whole thing will get built. What it's occupied by, I can't entirely promise.
Okay. So having 2 dogs, And I'm thinking that probably right now they take turns, like cardiology's there on Tuesdays, or, you know what I mean?
Yes, but I don't.
So I understand that, and I look at it and say, as far as the parking goes, although it might sound like overkill, if you've ever gone to an emergency vet or someplace like that, if you go to Tufts, some days you pull in, you can't find anywhere to park. You're, out in the nosebleed section. So although it sounds like overkill, I don't think it is. And I think that it is something you should probably keep, not scale down, but that's just my opinion. I just think I have a different spin on it, having been to those places, but other than that, I have nothing.
Set?
Yep.
John?
John, can you give me a rough idea of the square, what by what the new building's gonna be? Roughly how large that building's gonna be?
So this portion of the building here,
Yeah,
which is new, is 17,700 square feet,
outside dimensions,
the
roughly.
outside dimensions, yes.
No, I mean, what, 40 by 80, what does it, oh, do you know what it is?
How large is it?
Yeah,
I didn't either tonight.
I got one.
Hmm.
yeah, it's underneath right there.
Patrick.
She thinks.
It's not helpful.
Use the blue scale, always works.
So that's 180 feet this way,
Okay,
and at its widest here, it's 95 feet,
how much?
95.
So 180 by 95, so, okay. It's one of the larger buildings maybe coming before us. Is there, when you spoke with the fire department, is there any issue about having to be able to get around to the other side?
No.
The trucks can handle everything from just one side, or I
That's-
didn't know?
That's what we showed him, and he didn't
He didn't raise any issues?
He didn't
on
raise
that.
any
Okay.
issue about that, so I don't want to speak for him. But what we showed him was the fire truck coming here,
The
driving
tuning, yeah,
in,
I saw
and then
that.
driving out. His biggest concern about that was the way we showed it is that the fire truck was actually
Over the middle
going
line.
over the theoretical yellow line in between the two travel lanes. So we widened this out on a new plan and to show him that.
Will you be widening both of the entrances then?
Well, this one we're gonna be reconstructing anyway, so we did widen it out a little bit, but
Okay.
not very much.
I just didn't know if there would be a need for an alleyway for a truck to get around behind if necessary, or if he had any
I
issue.
will ask the deputy chief that exact.
But there's no requirement for that.
Through the chair to Mr. Leary, fire code and building code requires only 3 sides of the building to be accessible. So to meet law, mass law, you'll need to have 3 sides accessible.
3 sides? Is
Yeah.
that what you said? Okay. And they more or less have that. Okay, thank you. What's the other thing? Well, it's kind of related to that. The landscaping wouldn't get in the way then if it wasn't necessary. And you do have the landscaping showing on some of the parking areas. I kind of agree with Sarah, if there's a way of reducing the parking, it would make more sense. It did seem a lot of parking for an area like that. You said there were a total of like 7 doctors gonna be working at this location, is that what?
That's the estimate for the hospital piece. If and when the urgent care goes in, I'm going to be optimistic and say it's going in. There'll be more doctors, more patients, different times. So kind of to echo Katie's comment there, you could absolutely end up, it's not going to be full all the time.
Yeah,
Unfortunately, it's kind of like a Black Friday, scenario. One day a week, but if it's full and someone has to park on Fox Hill or Route 1, there's a problem.
there's an issue.
And
right.
so we owe it to you to show that that's not going to happen. We believe that the plan in front of you, and again, I'll confirm this to make sure that I can't add a few.
And your plan does say it's 11 support staff,
Yes,
with the 11 doctors,
And-
just to be.
That is the current plan.
7 doctors plus
Hopefully we're
11
not-
additional, so you have to have parking for all of them, obviously,
Right.
yeah.
So the other point of that, though, right, so
Not on the lighting, of course.
zoning regulation only says that I need to match the runoff from the 2 and the 10-year storm. We're matching the runoff up to the 100-year storm. So, and there's no additional volume of water. So there's rate and there's volume, right? Rate is the speed that it leads. Volume is how much leads. There's no additional volume leaving the site. So all of the runoff, well, not all of the water that falls on the site in the existing condition and soaks into the ground is gonna do the same thing after this is built. I mean, I know we do it a little bit artificially, but then we do make steps to make sure that the suspended solids, right? So bacteria, the reason they want to get rid of suspended solids is bacteria need something to hold on to. If you have clear water with no solids, there's no bacteria anymore. So we take the suspended solids out in accordance with the DEP regulations and their methods that they allow us to do it. And then we put the water back into the ground. So that, and then there's separation to water table, but that's why Carl and I go out, we look at the type of soil. We also look to make sure we're gonna have separation to water table. So we have over 4 feet separation to water table. In fact, we never saw water table, so we have over 4 feet separation to how deep we could dig. So it's a very conservative design. We knew that the planning board would be interested in this, and so we didn't want to sort of, shortchange it, so to speak. We went above and beyond what the zoning says, rather than come in and say, oh, yeah, well, we just meter. We do way more than meter.
Okay, so all the traffic will be coming that way. The area around the new proposed entrance, whatever, is that all concrete there? You got, looks like a handicap ramp. Is everything between the parking space to parking space all covered, or is that grass in between?
This here,
No, the new
This in-
entrance in the back? That one, yeah.
this is grass. This is.
There is some grass around the slopes, okay.
Yeah.
So basically, the utilities will be in similar locations as they are now, then? The,
Yeah,
new
we
buildings, they're all
sent the
gonna come through
plan,
the
Carl
same-
made a comment, we sent the plan back to the architect, because they were the ones who originally showed that, sort of that chase, that
that whole
with
line.
all of the utilities in it, we said the town engineer's not really, too keen on this, and so they came back and said, in fact, it actually made sense, I don't know why they were doing that to begin with. Leave the domestic water where it is now, because this part of the building has a full basement, this part of the building's a slab.
Okay. I
So
understand.
leave it where it is now, the same with the telephone, et cetera, and the same with the gas. Leave it where it is now, and so the only thing we need over here now is the fire line. So we don't have everything jammed up next to each other the way it was before. We have at least 10 feet separation, which is what Carl recommended.
So at this moment now, any medical operations are being done in the current building, right?
Or in a trailer.
Or in a trailer, okay. And basically, that whole thing will be moved out into the new addition. Will they be continuing to do surgeries or whatever in the current building, or is that gonna become more office space, or does it?
It
That I don't
depends.
really know.
If we end up with an urgent care sooner rather than later, that's where it will go. If we don't, it will probably be office space or storage. The entire medical operation that Dr. Kuby herself operates or oversees is anticipated to go into the new 17,700 and change square foot building. And that could change, but that was her dream, if you will.
I think you mentioned that it's almost completely gonna be dogs and cats, whatever.
That's her practice currently, and she isn't planning on changing.
So she wouldn't be expecting rabbits or birds or anything, or, I'm just
I
curious.
honestly couldn't tell you, but I asked her directly, and her answer was the last time she did something that wasn't a dog or a cat was 5 years ago. I don't know that she would refuse an animal treatment if a vet called her, but that's just not her practice right now.
If the urgent care goes in, would that be a 24-hour?
That would be her
operation?
goal. Again,
Available.
she is anticipating, and hopefully she'll be here next meeting, so I'm sure she is far more eloquent at this than I, but it is my understanding that her real thought is to be able to offer a service to animals off hours. Clearly, you're not going to shut down between 8 and 6, during the normal business hours, but that's, I don't think, her total goal. Because I asked, well, would you operate something that was just business hours? She's like, totally not what I'm going for. So I'm going to stop there because I don't want to be wrong when she gets up and talks furthermore about it. But I think her goal is to have it something to service
I believe
pets
that
all day
covers
long.
everything at this time.
Okay. All right, I got a few. One is, if going back, I don't care about parking. If you meet the parking codes, you meet the parking codes. But what John had said previously is you're gonna be putting more water in than if you'd left it all grass. Is that a true statement, John?
Putting in more, yes.
Yeah, more will get down. It's like when people wanna put stupid drains in their ground off their roof. Why? You got a grass that can go on, but the same thing here. It's gonna, here you're putting it 100% in right away as opposed to dribbling down onto Route 1, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so that's why I don't really care if they do that. Whole purpose is to get the water back in there. Island landscape, I've never been a fan of islands, because first off, I think they're a waste of time and money, and they get in the way. And the other thing is, you're gonna salt the crap out of it, just like everybody else does, and I'm glad I used the correct terminology. It dies. I mean, the high school is a piece of crap too. There's nothing that will keep the growing during the salt season. I don't know why, but I know you have to meet your, can you meet it another way? Do we need an
Well,
island?
we can meet it by just doing we can put all those plants on the perimeter, and I agree.
Do we
with
need
you.
an island in the middle? I don't care about the ends. The ends don't bother me. It's just because you're big enough there, but if you got down the center there, that's just between the plow hitting it and between the sander coming in, you end up the next year with nothing.
If the board would prefer, I mean, we can put more landscaping around the perimeter, and we could maybe leave those or something,
If that's up, your choice.
I
If
mean,
you had
we're
a,
at like, we're at like almost 20%.
yeah, well, my other point is if you want to keep it the separation, I don't care. My only point is from a purely sensible, why do we put plants in parking lots that have salt that die? To me, if you had to have that separation, if your client wanted it, fine. Then I would sit there and I'd put pavers in there, something that's gonna take a beating as opposed to that. But it's my own personal comment. I just hate to see it because you go up there any place after and it just gets, especially the high school, you look at that, it's just,
You just want a sea of asphalt.
no, I didn't say sea of asphalt, did I? I said concrete pavers down the middle.
But it's nice to have green to break up.
Green, yeah, for 1 year, Phil.
Well, I don't know.
Well, this is my turn to speak. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
But you get salt, I just don't like to see it.
I
Okay?
just want to make sure that it wasn't the board's decision as opposed to the.
That's what I just said. I said it's my own personal preference. Thank you. I sit here all night waiting for my turn and then I get interrupted.
No, sorry about that.
Well, if the board would agree, we could put, pavers and then leave with the tree, what do you call them, the grates, and put the trees.
Whatever
there
you,
and have it-
John, that's my only comment, so, okay? My next comment is, comments for your own good. I don't care. To me, I'd be putting 2 stakes at either end for Foxborough line, just in case. 'Cause if you're doing something in Foxborough or whatever, someone comes out, you go, that's your own,
Oh,
it's my own suggestion.
literal stakes.
Yeah.
You can
No,
see
no,
where,
not,
yeah, that makes sense.
not filet mignon or something, but just one on either side. So if it, town of Foxborough says, what are you doing or something, that's, you don't have to do it. It's only if someone comes out. Now, next question. You talk about parking. Route 1, we know you can't park on there. We have the problem with the ice rink all the time. That's up to individuals. But I don't believe Foxville has any signs that says you can't park on that street.
No.
It's a pretty wide street.
It does not, there really isn't any reason for anyone to park out there.
No, I understand, but I'm not, Route 1's the state police, they have to
Yeah.
do that, but Fox Hill, I just want to be known that there is no one's going to park out there with what you got.
No. We
now the-
are, by the book, required to minimize that to the extent possible.
Yeah, and my next comment, and my last one, is, now that you're going to put this big addition on, I'm very familiar with the old building, used to go up there whacking the golf balls, and they had Verizon in there and everybody else. It's not the greatest building, I know they've done some upgrades, but now that you're gonna go into the new, you jumped up to the bigger building code, how much of that, has that been analyzed, that nothing's gonna have to happen to that building from an outside as opposed to inside?
Well, I know that the architect has had professionals come and look at the building,
Yeah,
but I don't know what the results are. I could provide you with that.
the only reason I'm bringing it up, John, my own opinion, I'm here for site plan, but if something has to change on that building, you guys should find out now, as opposed to all of a sudden you put the plans in, and Jim goes, oh, you gotta do this and this, you have to add something on or do something, it could slow up your whole process. We only care about inside, but if something has to be done, the outside or even something changed, just double check that, just to make sure.
I will.
And the other thing is, not that it's your own, once again, it's your own thing. I imagine you're gonna have to do a lot of work inside, because it's probably right now, it doesn't have sprinklers, does it?
I don't know, to be honest.
I doubt it, because it's
Probably
too
not.
small a building. So now,
It doesn't, it only has a 1-inch water.
yeah, but my point here is, you're gonna have to put those in. How's the phasing done?
Yep.
So that's a consideration here too, that everybody have to, and that will work back to your building renovations too, is that you may end up having to do a temporary something that's kind of changing the plan, but we would have to have anything you can do the outside that may be temporary, you might want to show us now, so you don't have to come back and, belabor the whole situation, because I can see different type of entrance or something to that effect, John, just because of, to me, if I'm the builder of that, I do the big one first, put it up and running, and then go in and do the other. But in the meantime, you may have to do a lot of little temporary things on the outside that gets to be problematic.
So it's all good points, and they're actually already working with the builder and subcontractors and all, so maybe they have some sort of schedule, some sort of way, some kind of a report or something written down about how they're gonna do this. So I'll find out, and we'll get it to you. Or
Well,
else if
have
don't, we'll find out what they're.
Well, what I've typically found with site plans is that the architect is kind of trailing, because we saw the one up on West Street, they kind of do the nice, pretty outside, like you see in Zillow, and inside, we haven't thought that out, and I'm gonna tell you, I've done enough of this stuff. When you do these changeovers, there's a lot of stuff you come out like, oh, crap. And they have it inside, not my problem. Outside, I'm just forewarning to make sure that you guys, it's thought about on that basis. That way, it goes smoother.
You obviously know a lot more about that than myself. But I can just see in these emails going back and forth between these different people that they're thinking ahead. So I don't know how far they've gotten or whether they, sort of are rising to that level. But let me see what I can find out from them.
John, what you find, well, I know you haven't done, I've worked on a couple hospitals and like you change emergency rooms, and it's a lot more than just going into your local bar or the 7-Eleven. And there's a lot of thought that goes into that and how they have to change it, and especially the rooms inside. So just
Yeah.
tell you guys to give it some thought in case they have to do something.
Yeah.
We had to.
Yeah, it could be potential.
Right.
If we have to do this, we have to do that. And well, the whole world's temporary, but you just say for your phasing, what you do, that way everybody understands that. Because it will affect, the other thing it will affect is your parking, because the chances are, if you're working over there, how you're gonna work that
Right.
all, and the only reason I bring this up is, like I said, it's medical, and people bring in, whether it's a hospital, bring in their cat or dog, they're not thinking
No.
clearly, and they're just looking for something, and that's why I've always found that, especially in hospital work, you can't, they do it so, you'd be a total idiot and still get in there. I mean, 100%. Okay, that's all I have. Is anybody in the audience? No? They behind there asleep? Okay, now, when?
Well, I already gave you the revised plans, but it's up to you.
Well, you got some other stuff that you may have, some temporary stuff, John.
Yeah, I mean, there's this all.
We've got changes.
Well, you got changes for Carl, and you still gotta do, and Paul Barry has to see the updated, so we're not it. So, I know you got new plans if you run with him, but even if they don't get changed, great, but if they have to, plus even any of these temporary conditions, if they wanna go ahead with it, they're your clients, you can only advise them. If they say, yeah, forget it, then I'm not saying you have to do any temporary stuff.
No,
It's their decision. They either they know up front, that way they're not crying later
I
on.
think all the stuff that you said and all the members of the board said are certainly valid. You know, I would never advise them not to follow good advice. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, I understand, but like I said, the temporary, you can do it after. You don't have to be tied down. I think you understand that, Phil. That's not our board's choice. It's your guy's choice, whether you might have to modify it later. I don't know if he wants.
I think you're gonna have to resubmit no matter what because of the signage. That Sarah asked for.
Okay, whatever
Do
you,
you wanna come back once or twice?
whatever you guys decide, so.
All right, I gotta have to be the bad guy with my client, but I would say a month.
Okay, so that means by...
Gives us 2 weeks to
2
have
weeks,
revisions.
Yeah, you got 2 weeks, you'd get it all, okay. So it
Can't
would
make
be,
it, then we'll extend,
it would
but
be the 16th, right? Do we need extension, Kate? We do?
Yes.
up through and including, what is it, February 28th?
Okay, I'll make a motion to allow the applicant extension up through February 28th. Do I have a second?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. So, we got a time, or we,
7:10.
how many we got that night?
February 16th. So far, we only have Bristol with his subdivision, but now I
Okay,
don't think he'll be here.
yeah, okay. All right, so this hearing will be continued at 7:10 on February 16th.
7:10 and 7:11?
Yes,
Oh, the special permit.
7:10, the special permit, can we have an extension for that?
Yes, also through the February.
Okay, I'll make a motion for the
28th.
special permit up through February 28th.
Not September,
Second, yeah. I don't
Second.
know.
hopefully.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And we'll do the special permit, continue February 16th at 7:11. Alright,
Great, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
okay, and, where's everything go? All right, with the hour being after 7:10, we have, I'll give you, we have a continuation of, another continuation, but opening night for Bruin Court. And what we have here is, so I'll make a motion to continue without testimony, but I need to read it first, Kate, don't I?
I'm sorry?
I gotta read the thing first to open it to continue. Do I have the- do I have a,
Oh.
advertisement?
I'm sorry.
No. No. I'll read it. We'll open the hearing, a public hearing on Bruin Court definitive subdivision, 965 West Street, for the applicant Michael Freiberger with respect for a definitive subdivision. And with it being opened, we have a request from the attorney representing that now it's open, just to take no testimony and continue without any further testimony.
Yes, please.
Okay, do we need an extension?
I just gave it to Kate.
Is that one you just gave me was Bruin?
No, yes, that was Bruin.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought that was.
I'll give you the written one for,
Okay, what is, you can just tell me the date.
I think we did it through the end of February as well.
Okay, January 19th, from Attorney Phil Mackey, representing Bruin Court, respectfully request an extension up through February 28th, 2023 to take action. I have a second.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and we have a request from the applicants that with regard to the above captioned manner, 965 West Street, we've asked that the board open continual testimony on January 19th and to the next available date. So, that being said, February 16th, we're gonna do, Kate? Yep. Okay. We will continue this public hearing with no testimony tonight till February 16th at 7:20.
Great. Thank you very much.
Did you have one more?
I do.
Yeah, we'll bang you out of here right now. Okay, and it's on the New Pond?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get that. Then we'll go home for the night. Yeah, I guess I didn't hear that.
That was just a goodbye.
No, I said we'll go home after this. No one's listening back in there, they're sleeping too. Let's see, what you got, okay. Okay, did we already vote this?
You voted a year ago,
Oh,
and again, with healthcare being what it is, ups and downs, we thought we were going to apply for building permit, but we still have not, so we would ask that you extend the time in which to begin construction for a year.
okay, I don't have that letter, I got the last one. The only ones I got here is, this was dated the 2021. I get the one sent to Gaff, and the other one sent to Gaff, unless stapled here, no. But you're requesting,
There's a letter, so,
there is?
yes, well, I'm saying he did submit a letter.
Okay, so you're looking for an extension on which to draw a
You know,
building
I
permit?
forget which special, standard condition it is, but we're supposed to start construction within 2 years. And we would ask that that condition be extended for a year.
We never did find out on that COVID thing, did we? Like Leo's Pizza, but anyway.
Are you looking for 1 year or 2 years?
I take 2, but normally the boards wanted 1.
Make a motion to allow the applicant to 2-year extension which to file for building permit up through February 3rd, 2025.
Great, thank you very much.
Second.
Second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, okay. Now you go.
Thank you.
Jeff, can I have that other folder too, please?
What, for this one? Yep. And I gotta put these in. Do you have these or not? Kate? You already have these?
Yeah.
Now you're gonna get this, just in case. All right, with the hour being after 7:20.
7:15.
Northwoods subdivision continued.
Oh, that's 7:15.
Oh, we gotta do clock tower. Kate, you got the clock tower? You can just. All right. All right, we have a request from the Legacy Engineering. He asked for an extension of time up through February 28th, 2023. Make a motion to grant that.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
So, is he coming on the 16th, Kate? Another guy?
You want him on there?
Well, you only gave it to the end of the month.
All right, so that will be 7,
Did they say that they'd be all, no, that's only 2 weeks away anyway. They gotta go through Concom and that crap, and if they change anything. So, yeah, we'll have to make it the 16th. So we'll continue this public hearing on February 16th at 7:30? Yep. Okay, with the hour being after 7:20, we have a continuation of Northwood definitive subdivision. So with that being said, we open the hearing, and we have a treat tonight. We don't have Rob Truax. Where's he? Italy, Florida?
Florida right now.
He just got back from Italy, didn't he?
Traveling, like to,
I think contractors make all the money, huh? Okay. All right, let's see. I'll read the comments, because I know we've been going through most of them, the updated ones. Water and sewer, John Hassenegger, Chair. They appeared before the water and sewer, and the board is satisfied with the layout. That was dated December 8th. What was the last day we met? I forget.
October?
October? No, for that.
No, wait a minute.
And I thought I read the police department. Well, from the police department, way back on September 10th, they had, the police has concern with the sight line for the proposed road off of High Street for Lot 6, and it'd be entered in a blind
October
hill,
6th.
coming down from the hill. But we had talked about that, I know, right? The one right on High Street. December 29th, that's yours. Carl's, and, I'm looking at two of yours, Carl. One goes to Concom, and one goes to us. Is it the same? Is it different?
More or less the same, Mr. Chairman. I
Okay,
just
then-
divided up. That's the way the Concom prefers.
That's the last one I have, so.
Right.
And that was dated, and I got a, yes, I'm sorry, Carl. I got the R's there. Go ahead.
Yeah, the latest memorandum I delivered was January 11th, Mr. Chair and Board, and it's based on the latest submission, the December 29th submission. There were very few comments left. The most meaningful comment was on the stormwater management report, that's labeled number 55 in the memo. And Mr. Truax provided the calculations that actually exceed the board's requirement. He called and provided them yesterday morning. And it does not change any of the pipe sizes. The depth of flow on them increases a little bit, but it doesn't result in any plan changes, and it meets the requirements of the board. While I was looking through it, I found a couple of other labeling type notes. Those would be comments 56 to 59. I would refer to them as straggling comments, because I think some of them were on earlier reviews, and I just noticed on this review that there's some things still need to be changed there. Those are very easy to do. And comments 50 to 54 are suggested conditions, special conditions of approval. And they deal with some off-site things, some and namely, one of them's a little further off-site on Sunny Rock Drive, preparing conveyance documents for both public easements and private easements, that's 52 and 53. And then we note over the, what's referred to as Road A, we want an easement over that, because that's going to have municipal water and sewer in it. It will remain a private way, but we want a public easement in it, just an easement, it won't be accepted. And then we note that the plans on sheets 9 and 10 do indicate some other off-site paving that needs to be done on both Dover and Delaney Drive. So that's my comments, and we're down to very few things on this. And I didn't specifically discuss it with Mr. Truax, but he's had this for a while, and I didn't hear that anybody was, that there was any problem with any of the special conditions.
All right, have you guys got, you out of Concom?
Concom was approved
Okay.
last week.
Okay. So Concom, that was really the only one out. we have a letter here from the 29th of December. Oh, that went to conservation, okay. That was all about stormwater management, that had nothing to do with us. And Kyle's comments, he had dated January 11th, have you already seen them?
Yes, and those were all taken care of on the plan.
Okay. His recommended special conditions, number 50. No problem. Sunny Rock?
Which one is that? I don't have that
Oh.
list in front of me.
It's
I'm
the
sorry.
money. In order to relieve chronic winter icing, it's 15 Sunny Rock. Review designs for remediation up to a value the town to
Generous
provide.
donation.
Okay with that?
I think what we said here was the 100, right? Rob sent you the 100-year storm calculation?
Oh, he did, that's all resolved. The other plan edits weren't on they were on that memo because they weren't on the December 29th set. So if the board approves those as a special condition, those will be addressed prior to endorsement of the Mylars, and that would be very easy to execute.
So are these on the, explain to everybody about this, Kyle, so we all know. I know we kind of touched upon it a couple times, but Sunny Rock and all that stuff. Is this
Oh.
what you talked about before?
Yeah, the special conditions, that's actually were in earlier memos, but I just
Yeah.
brought them forward and said that there's nothing new there. They were, I think I refined the issue on Sunny Rock Drive, and I put a limit to it and said it's up to the town to figure out what the problem is up there, develop a solution, and if we need to go to Concom or whatever to get it permitted, we will, but I've said that Mr. Walsh said from the start he would help us out with it, but I put a cap on it and said it's not unlimited. He'll go down there and he'll do up to a certain amount of work and help us fix the issue.
Well, that's my question, because it says up to a value of 25,000 and cost share the above amount. All right, how does the share, 50/50?
Let me look at the wording. I've got to get my memo back because I don't have a quick memo. Yes, that would be 50/50. It isn't explained that way, but if you want to add that in, that's
Well, I'm
fine.
reading a different way too, Kyle. It says cost share above this amount. So if it goes over, Walsh is gonna do up to 25. If it exceeds that, then the town kicks in. Is that the other way to read it?
I think so.
Okay, so I read it like that again. You guys all understand that? Okay. I just want to make sure so we understand these just before we open up again. Easement docks for the, over parcel A, is that an issue? You know, have you already seen these all, John?
We've talked about it.
Okay, I just want to make sure, so everybody nods. Record covenants of private sewer easement over Lot 3, and recorded. Okay. Prepare,
That's-
and record utility access over right-of-way for Road A at 488 and 504 High, and convey to the town. You understand that one? And the last one was perform off-site roadway improvements updates as shown on sheet 9 and as shown on sheet 10.
So those improvements were actually upgrading the mouth of Dover Road, the existing constructed piece of Dover Road that will lead to,
The drive.
Dover Drive, Dover Drive. That's one of the drafting errors on the plan, pardon me. And the other unnamed driveway that's going to be the entrance to Jack Walsh Lane. And pave right out to the edge, upgrade the curb from berm so that the road all looks the same going in. And I think there were two cross trenches on Dover and one on Delaney that need to be repaired as well. And we never had any issues with that as far as I know.
Okay, so that's what you, on the special getting, I want to make sure, and everything else has been taken care of, or is that true, Kyle? All the other little ones you had?
Yeah, no, you're gonna have to include items 56 to 59
Okay.
as conditions to be as
Prior
things that
to?
need to be done before endorsement. 55 can stay out of it, it's all set.
And that's okay?
Yep.
Yeah, I think I just saw something from Landis on that. Okay, so we understand what's happening. From GLM, do you guys have anything to add or show us tonight? More than
There are a few waivers that we do request, which are listed on the plan.
Okay,
Do you want me to read those off to you? There's only one change to one of those waivers, and that's the roadway to Lot 6 is going to be 20 feet wide instead of 12, and that's per the fire department. So a fire truck can get in there and then turn around.
Lot 5, right?
On Lot
one right on High Street,
The
right?
one that's off of High Street.
Yeah.
That became 5?
Look, it's 5 on my
It
side.
became
It's
5, I
5,
think.
yeah.
I'm-
Five,
yeah.
okay.
Because 6 went away.
Oh,
I think Sarah had requested renumbering.
I saw that, I think this might be an older.
Yeah, I think Sarah had requested renumbering them when 5 went away.
Yeah, they must have changed.
Yeah,
That might be on the color didn't get changed
Yeah.
for the lots.
so it should be 5.
Should be 5.
All right, I don't have the list in front of you. You want to read each waiver? We'll take them as you go.
Yep. Section 3-1, submission to the planning board, municipal systems impact analysis, request a waiver of this section to be exempt, that a stormwater management report be submitted herewith, which it was.
How does the board want to do each one individually, have them just list them all off?
Well, I have a question on one
Okay.
of them, so,
Which one, this one, or?
no,
We'll do
number
each one
number
as we go,
7.
that way if you got a question, we can stop them.
Okay.
Okay, anybody have any questions, comments on the first one?
No.
No.
Make a motion to grant a waiver, do I have a second?
Second.
A second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 2?
Section 3-1, submission to the planning board, traffic impact data and analysis, request to waive this section.
Questions on that, from anybody? Yeah, make a motion to approve,
Second.
do I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Yay, number 3.
And the rest of these waivers pertain to the proposed Road A, which is this individual
Yep.
lot over there. Request a waiver to allow the proposed roadway to remain private.
Okay, no issues, okay, make a motion to approve a waiver to remain private,
Second.
do I have a second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next,
Roadway waiver to allow the pavement of 20 feet. Minimum requirement is 26 feet. And again, that 20 feet is per the fire department.
Okay, the one I'm looking at says 12.
It says 12 on that, but we
yeah, he upped it to
we
20.
have talked to the fire department and they said 20.
Okay, make a motion to grant a waiver up to allow a 20-foot paved drive as per the request of the fire department. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, next.
Section 5-7, curbs and gutters, waiver to request to construct the roadway with no curbing,
Okay.
because it is a private drive.
No issues, okay, I'll make that motion to allow.
Second.
Is that the one?
No,
Okay.
I'm just trying to move it along.
I don't want to
Second.
miss one, okay. Make a motion to approve. We have a second from John, all in favor?
Aye.
Next.
Sidewalks, waiver requested to construct the side roadway with no sidewalks.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve.
Second?
We have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any more?
Yep, sorry. Table of dimensional standards for roadways within subdivisions, waiver to allow no paved cul-de-sac turnaround to be constructed.
Okay, I'll make that as a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Street trees, waiver to request for no street trees.
I'll go along with that. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Waivers. We have a second from John, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, here's my question.
Okay,
This one.
Intersections, request waiver to allow street to be constructed without 30-foot roundings.
okay.
So I just wanted to clarify, so that rounding is for the driveway, not the
I-
full build-out, right?
That's for the driveway. Is I believe that in your regulations with the 26-foot
Yeah,
wide pavement,
Yeah,
it requires a 30-foot, 30-foot roundings.
yeah.
And since this is private, we're requesting that that gets waived.
Okay. So
This whole
my
thing.
question is on that one, and then that ties in with the police concerns. And so it's rare for the police to send us a letter saying they have concerns about safety, and they did on this one. So
Okay. I'm not familiar with what the police department actually said on that.
I'm concerned if the police are concerned.
This goes way back. It said, concerns of the sight line for the proposed road off of High Street for Lot 6.
Which is now Lot 5.
Yeah,
Which is now.
Yeah.
Lot 5, coming off of, the one coming off of High Street, as I
Yep.
said.
Looks like we just got it in December, but
Yeah.
I would say you gotta work that out with the police to make sure that they're no longer concerned. There is sight distance on the set, and it said 250 each way, but,
Maybe we'll show that to the police department.
yeah, I guess I'm hesitant to
Okay, we hold that
say it
waiver in abeyance. then.
doesn't matter, because whenever we hear from fire or police, we,
Yeah, we'll hold that waiver in abeyance. You get that, and then
Carl, do you have insights?
No, there was part of the original comments, we were concerned about it too. We went out in the field, looked at it. I think Rob did put some, whether he can't recall now, because it's been a while, if he did a profile or not, he showed it on the plans. But after we took a look at it in the field and refined the location, we noted that it actually has, and this is not necessarily the greatest rationale, but it has a lot better sight distance than some of the driveways we turned around in up there.
Yeah, I mean,
And
the whole road is tough.
50 is, it's directly relatable to speed, but it's not a bad sight distance, it's probably more than that. So we erased our concerns after that. I'm sure the police didn't follow that dialogue, and they didn't talk with us about it, but we did look at it. It's not an issue that wasn't without some attention and some thought.
Yeah,
So-
and to the roundings, it's gonna impact how much the person has to slow down to get into the driveway, and it's, I mean, it's a
That's true.
safety,
Driveways are probably 12 feet,
Yeah,
up there. It's gonna
average-
be 20
yeah.
feet.
Average driveway is around 12 feet anyway.
yeah. I know, but I mean, you guys, I guess, know that road as well, like, it's tough, so just if the police are concerned about
High
safety,
Street
then,
is scenic road?
then I would be
Yes.
Yeah.
concerned.
I don't know if
They're
that,
taking away
I'm
those-
throwing this out, I don't know if that concern for the police was when the driveway was 12 feet wide proposed, instead of now the 20.
it
That I don't know.
doesn't say, but we have a loop to close.
Yeah,
We always close our loops, We can speak, we don't want to speak for them, we think we know, but just
Yeah.
close that loop, that waiver. And it's Luke Pollen. All right, more waivers?
Yes, one more, certificate of monuments, as-built plans, and street acceptance plans. Waiver to request a waiver to not have to put the monuments in.
Okay. You don't care because it's
Or
private?
do as-bills.
Okay.
We want the as-bills, we just don't, we agreed to the waiver on the monuments.
So you want the as-built of the driveway?
As-built on the driveway.
All right, so we'll make a motion to waive the monuments for the private drive. Do I have a
Second.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Sweet. All right, no more waivers, right?
That's it, yeah.
Okay. Is there any more information forthcoming we need to know, or?
I think that's just about everything.
Okay, I'll start with John. Do you have any other questions, comments?
So going back to the number 7, which we kind of skipped over, I guess, right? We didn't vote for that one.
What one?
The roundings,
we're waiting.
waiting on that. Yeah. There probably should be roundings of some degree on it, but yeah, it probably doesn't need full roundings of a road. The Sunny Rock Drive one, is that like one of the houses at the end of that cul-de-sac there on Sunny Rock?
No, it's 15 Sunny Rock Drive. It's much closer to North Street and the old Buttermers Farm. It's an icing problem. The water actually leaks out of the driveway apron, comes out across the sidewalk, goes over the road, and it's a problem this time of year, if it isn't as warm as it is right
The
now.
town often puts signs up there. Icy, ice.
This is,
Conditions,
it's being a good neighbor.
I can't
Good
think of
neighbors
anything
cost a lot of
else.
money, though.
I'm all set.
You all set, Kate?
I think mine's easy. And I can't remember because it's been so long. On August 18th, the neighbor, the Lancasters, had discussed, they were happy you went down to one house instead of two. They're the ones who abut Lot 5. And they had talking to you about a tree buffer. Did you ever talk to them or come up with anything there between their lot and Lot 5?
No, not yet, not till we figure out where the house is gonna be placed.
Okay,
We still gotta go through conservation just for the house.
but you plan on
Yeah, whatever.
putting something there for them?
You also told them to give them sewer too, so.
Okay. That's all I had.
That's it. Phil?
I don't have anything.
Sarah?
Yeah, just one question. I think we've discussed it, but the Lot 6, which is now close to, I don't know which one it is. The question is Lot 6 and 35 Delaney Drive. It looks like the driveway for 35 Delaney Drive kind of crosses over Lot 6, so do you have an easement
Yeah, we're
there?
gonna give them an easement for that little triangle piece of
Okay,
land.
yeah, so can you just add that to the plans?
I think it's in the documentation.
It's good to have on the plans, is it not?
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
I know we
It-
talked about
This
it.
piece right
It
here.
did
could be
talk
added
about
to
it,
the,
but I
it
didn't-
could
I
be
didn't
added to the
see it
special
there.
conditions as well, because I've got other easement items on there.
Is this the piece they talked about, this piece here?
Yes.
It's on
So I
sheet
missed
4.
that.
Okay.
So add that.
There's a piece of parcel or something, see note 5.
And then I just wanted to make sure and state for the record that we did the scenic road and that was approved.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, and that's all I had besides the driveway.
Okay, so
Thank you.
we have the two issues, tying it up with the police, and now the other one, make sure it's on the plan for the easement. So get those two done. I guess we're done. So, you do it a couple weeks, because we're not resubmitting plans, just adding to it. Next meeting's February 2nd.
Do any plans need to be submitted, because it's 2 weeks from tonight?
Well, what you,
Or can we?
no, you just put a note on what you've discussed with the police department, because that will be off-site anyway, and the triangle's just a note to add to something, there's no, actually, I don't even think it falls under really subdivision control, because it's off the road, but that's just a matter of adding something like we've done in the past. What? You don't see, Kyle, you don't see you have to resubmit anything after you go up there with the cops, right?
I'm not going up there. But anyway. I mean, I already beat that one into the ground, but anyway, now the driveway's a little bit wider, it's gonna be more open, it's gonna take out a little
Okay,
more of
well-
that cut.
Yeah, if you show it and there's not an issue.
I would at least like, I don't know if you want a full submission to distribute to everyone, I would like to set a plan sometime, they don't have to be,
Set of plans of what?
of the changes that we got, well, we got some of
Well,
them
if
for
you think-
endorsement, right?
Yeah, but the change, well, I'm thinking the change to note for a easement isn't really a plan change, that's just adding something to it.
No, we could add that to the special conditions, though.
Yeah.
I think
we
the
can
notes-
also have a note that any change to the plan for site distance is added prior to endorsements.
Could do that,
But they gotta go get it first,
yeah.
okay? So,
I've never had any trouble. Communication's always been good. They'll show us stuff along the way while we're doing it so that, you know,
well, if you do that, and we'll come back for the 16th, I mean, the 2nd. And what, you
Then we
let us
can
know.
vote on that final waiver and,
With the final, yeah, we'll wait,
Yeah.
we'll wait till the loop's tied. Okay, and I don't like to condition those, because that's something from another department.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that they're, because you're kind of giving them the bum's rush, like, we don't value your opinion, we just want to get done, so. All right,
Need an extension, Jan?
okay, can I have extension
Yes,
through February 28th,
sure.
2023, of your own volition?
Yep, yes.
Will Truax be back by then, or where's he going next?
Yes, we'd like an extension till February 28th.
Okay. Rob is here, I was asking for the 30th, and he'd give it to me. Make a motion to allow an extension up through February 28th?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
So, go off and get what you got. If it's just a nothing, then we'll just have it there, and if it's not a big deal, because in theory, this doesn't go out to any other board, you only satisfy one department, right? So it's not like it's gonna make the loop again, okay.
so continue to the
And
2nd.
we'll, hearing on,
2/2.
February 2nd at 7:05, because 7:10 is Warwick continued.
yeah,
So we'll put them on first.
you know, I'll stay for Petrosi.
Rob's going to be here.
Okay. We'll continue this public hearing at 7:05, Kate?
Yep.
February 2nd?
Yep.
Okay, see you then.
Great, thank you very much for your consideration.
You're welcome.
Yeah, that takes care of, we didn't, Marion Street we can't do. Carl, just a quick question, Marion Street, is that a big deal or just a matter of?
The Form F should be close. I don't know why that wasn't,
But-
we saw a version of that, it just wasn't executed, it had some blanks.
So I guess what I'm asking is, it's more guys just doing their file, there's nothing from engineering end or anything that would be an issue?
No engineering, no, and the plans, the Mylars are all set, you could sign them tonight, but the documents need to be.
But he has to have all the rest, okay. that's-
Yeah, so that, it's no big, that's,
They just gotta finish their
I
homework.
think the coordination loop needs to be closed on that.
That's what I was going for. I got it, right? All right,
Yeah, can I have the Northwoods stuff?
What?
The Northwoods stuff?
give it to you with the folders. I'll make motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?